Okay, so we're back now. Trying to remember what I was doing. I had to take a break for a second. So I believe we were figuring out which documents we would source, and I decided that this would be one of the ones. All right, let's see. Remember, we have to do at least 3, but I said do 4 because you might incorrectly source one. All right, we're not going to source that one. Let's see. How can we source this one? Let's see. Let's not do that one. All right. This one, all right, let's try to think about what is it trying to say? Well, it's trying to promote these cars. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to source this one. We're going to talk about the purpose. And I think I accidentally said the wrong thing. For the one above, I meant point of view. Technically, it could be purpose. It could apply to any of them, but I think it's more point of view for this one. Why would FDR do this? Well, he thinks about the bonus army. That's why. Okay. All right, this one. I don't know. Let's do this one. We can do historical situation for this one. All right, that's 3. All right, let's see if we can do this last one. It's probably good to do at least 2 or 7 so that we have sourcing in both paragraphs. Okay. Okay, road to ruin. We need it. We can do purpose for this one. All right, there we go. Now, I am unsure of how long it's been taking me to do this, but I actually feel like that if I was doing this, I think I'm making okay time. I feel like I planned in less than 15 minutes. I might have not because I ramble on sometimes, but all right, there we go. So now we know what we're going to source, all right? When it comes to that. Okay, let me try to get my train of thought back. So we were trying to write the first body paragraph, and in that one we need to use the first line of reasoning. So we are going to first talk about the 2 and 7. So there were some racial prejudices. I don't know. I'm not even going to try to say that anymore. Okay, hang on. Let me just look this thing up. Prejudice. Pronounce. I don't know. I can't pronounce.
Prejudice.
Prejudice. Okay, I already forgot how to say it. Just whatever. Okay. That occurred. Well, there were some of those occurred stemming from, I believe that's how you spell stemming from the resulting in decreased economic prosperity. For some in the time period of 1940 to 97. Okay, so notice how this is my topic sentence, and that was this. Remember, this is what the first body paragraph is going to be about. That's what the second one's going to be about. All right, I have my topic sentence. Remember, to dusk, or really to dock. So we remember RDCT, CT, to dock. All right. So now we are going to talk about, we don't necessarily need to go right onto the topics or right onto the documents. Let's explain a little bit. All right, let's talk about it. So why would this be the case? Well, many many African Americans had yet to gain many civil rights at the dawn of this time period, which consequently resulted and continued inequality. So that's why we're saying why. So now let's use some documents, all right? And how do we use documents? Regardless of what anyone has told you, something to know is that you do not need to quote the documents. I do not think that you get penalized for doing so, but it is not a good thing to do. And many teachers do not like that. And the reason why is because the moment you start quoting is the moment that the document starts speaking for you. And it's also the moment that you do not do well. So let's what we always need to say, we kind of need to just briefly reference it and make sure that we know what it means. So remember what I said was the most important thing about this document is that it's showing that people of these races are being excluded, which shows that because they're being excluded, they are not receiving economic, that will lead to decreased economic prosperity among these groups, which supports the theme of this body paragraph. So as the property deed to the McIntosh family displays, so usually there's an actual name of who wrote it. So it would say as Roosevelt said displays or whatever. Okay, as the property deed to the McIntosh family displays, many what should I say? Sometimes it's difficult to find the right words. Let's see. We need to pick out from this what supports it. Remember, certain races were excluded from the property. This development, all right, so we just explained the document. Remember, that's not all we need to do. Remember, to get the point, we need to also connect it to the thesis, okay? And this is what I'm about to do. This development led to the decreased prosperity. I don't misspell this often when I'm writing. I don't know. I just don't always type right. Sorry. Okay. The decreased economic prosperity, let's be more specific, for these specific races. There was something I forgot to do. You need to source the document by doing this. Like that. That's all you have to do. At the end of the sentence, at the end of whatever sentence you talk about the document in, just do parentheses, doc, whatever. It's not required, but when you do this, then that will tell them, oh, look here, see if I get the point, see if I get the point. And they might not realize that you say it if you don't do that anyways. So now right now I have done one document. So why don't I put a green check mark by each document that I use? I need to use all of them. And when I use them, I need to explain what it says. And I need to explain how this relates to my thesis. And I did that for number 2, but I still have 5 more to go to get the 2 points that I need for this. So as of now, I still only have the 2 points that I got from the first paragraph. All right, so I did that. Now, this was not one that I wanted to source. So now we could do a little bit more explaining, but I think this is actually pretty decent. I mean, we did explain what the document says, and we did explain why this shows that there was not economic prosperity. All right, so that really is all we need to do. And remember, we're trying to do the bare minimum to get the maximum. All right, so now we're going on to document 7, which was the next document that we were going to use. And this was the one that we were going to source, all right? And here's a good thing, so that it doesn't just seem like, oh, what, they were just talking about document 2, now they just moved to something else. Use connecting words. For example, similarly. So now I'm drawing a connection between 2 and 7. This even can help me with my complexity point. So similarly, AQ Mowbray, that's kind of a weird name, doesn't matter, just keep going, describes this concept stemming from the developments of the 1950s, such as the interstate highway system. Now, be careful because, all right, let's source this thing. Or sorry, this is not sourcing, cite. Sorry, I said that wrong earlier. Sourcing is, we're going to do that. Okay. Now, the interstate highway system cannot count as outside fact because that's in document 6. Okay. So that's not, I'm just saying that as to explain what the document says. So I said that Mowbray shows what Mowbray says, he or she, I don't know who it is, whatever this person says, they're saying that this concept of, and I should be more specific, this concept of racial, the word I can't say, stemming. So I'm saying they are, what I'm saying is that this person is saying that these racial issues have been further escalated by things such as the 1950s, in the 1950s. Okay, this concept of racial prejudice further escalated by the developments. So if you have slightly elevated language, that can be better, but you don't really have to do that. Remember, minimum to get the maximum. Okay, good. Well, let's source this thing. Okay, purpose. And remember, we need to be kind of specific in this. All right, if you just say the purpose, well, okay, well, why? What does that matter? So let's just say this, okay? The purpose of Mowbray's Road to Ruin is to highlight these key destructions as a result of the processes of the 1920s, or 1920s, sorry, 1950s. All right, and why does this matter? I will say furthermore, many economic hardships did take place within the time period of 1940 to 1970, when examining the racial sector of this time, this period. I don't want to say the same thing again, but once again, it doesn't matter. So if you can't think of a word, just a few seconds, just go with it. They don't really care about that. But let me try to think. Okay, the racial sector of this era. There we go. That's better. Okay, so that, let's see. Is this? Are we done with the paragraph? Now, I would have liked to have an outside fact in this. I could put both of them in the next paragraph if I want. but I did use document 7 correctly. I used it to support my thesis, okay? But can we think of an outside fact, right? That was the problem that I was having earlier. Remember, I was trying to think of a specific fact, and if we can't think of one, then unfortunately we will not get that point. And here's the thing, if you can't think of one for whatever reason, you just keep moving on because you don't want to end up compromising your other points, because odds are you might not ever think of it. But if you do, you can add it in using an arrow. The readers have to figure out what you're trying to say, or you can try to insert it in the conclusion. So I've seen people do that. There's not really a specific order that they want you to do things in. If it's there, they give you the point. Now, things flow better, that helps you in other ways, but let's try to think. What is something that, well, maybe we can include an outside fact. Okay, now I need to make sure, okay, I'm gonna pause this for a second. Okay, so I just looked at the rubric. I was trying to make sure, I apologize for this. I was not sure if the outside evidence point had to be in the time period, and it does not. It can be, the only thing is that it must be relevant to the prompt. So if it's something about like Ronald Reagan and you try to use something about the Pueblo tribe in the 1400s, that might not work. But in this case, it will. I wanted to use the Plessy versus Ferguson case, which obviously was in the 1890s. So it is not in the time period, but I still can use it. So I'm going to put it, now, obviously, if I was writing in pen, I would have wanted to add this in earlier. But luckily, since I'm typing, I can just insert a line. But if you come into the situation, sorry, I got a cough. If you come into the situation where you like, oh, I meant to say that, you can put something in the margin of your paper and draw an arrow to where you want it to be. You can do that. The purpose, and I can say in context, the Plessy versus Ferguson Supreme Court case, which upheld segregation, was still in place and was being further implemented as the urban sphere changed. Okay, now the Plessy versus Ferguson case. Okay, all right. That case, I believe it was segregation in terms of schools, or maybe I'm thinking of the one that overturned it, Brown versus Board. Now let me see just to make sure. And obviously I know you can't do this. So okay, it did. All right. So the one that overturned it had to do with the school, but this one, okay, I can use that. So all right, this is the first paragraph. Now I did use the Plessy versus Ferguson case successfully. So let's think about the points I have. So you can let me write the points here. All right, so let's thesis, context, 3 docs, 6 docs, outside knowledge, sourcing 3, and complexity. Okay, so let's keep track of what points do I have so far. I have thesis. Oh, that's kind of big. I have thesis, and obviously you're not going to take the time to do this necessarily. I mean, you'll keep it in the back of your head. I've not done 3 documents yet. I've only done 2. I definitely haven't done 6, but I did do outside knowledge, but I'm going to try to insert another piece of outside knowledge just in case somehow they don't like my Plessy versus Ferguson explanation. And I have only sourced 1 document, so I don't get that point yet. So I have 3 out of 7. If I just stopped here, I would just like, I don't feel like writing. 3 out of 7. Hopefully you wouldn't do that, but just so you know, that's what I would have. So as you're starting to see, the DBQ likes to present itself as complicated, but it is not as complicated as it seems. It's only as complicated as you make it. You just remember, like I said, the key is to do the minimum to get the maximum and be specific and connect everything to the thesis. That is the key to success. And just basically doing the things I said. Because if you try to think, oh man, I need to say more about that. I need to say more about that. There's not, the points that you need, they just need to be connected to the thesis. If you say this supports my argument in any sort of way, no matter how long it is, if it does support your argument, if it does connect to what you're saying, then you will get the point. So don't try to think, oh, I need to say more. Look, these aren't very long paragraphs. All right. First paragraph done. Second one is going to be longer. We already know that. It's going to have 5 documents in it. It's going to be longer. So let's get ready for this thing. All right. Now, because I've already said this before, because these 2 lines of reasoning sort of contradict each other, because remember, this is an extent question. I'm now going to say, although some people, some citizens of certain races did experience low economic prosperity. Economic growth did occur to a great extent for the majority as a result of high consumerism. Now, you need to understand economics to understand why consumerism leads to economic prosperity. If more people are buying things, there is more demand. Where there is more demand, the manufacturers can make more as long as supplies last, but supplies are being massively made, if that's the right way to say it. Now, doesn't necessarily need to be explained to a high extent, but we are going to probably want to say something. So to be honest, really, after you say the topic sentence, you may want to add a little explanation. So like I did in the last one. So in situations of high consumerism, manufacturers, or I can say producers experience higher profits, which result in a greater ability to produce further products. Oh, and here's where another outside fact can come in. The assembly line was invented in the 1920s, which contributed to this increased increased ability to produce products. And remember, can't think of another word. Move on. Produce. Increased ability to produce. I'll just go with it. All right. Increased ability to produce products in the 1940 to 19 time era. I'll just say that. Okay. So that's another outside fact. And if they didn't like that, they might like the other one. If they didn't like that one, then they might like that one. If they don't like either of them, then oh, come on. But sorry, we got to keep going. We need to get the other points. So far, we only have 3. That's not good. Let's get the other ones. Come on. All right, let's try to use a document. All right, let's start with all FDR. Let's see. FDR. As in the case of FDR's GI Bill, Servicemen's Readjustment Act, I believe is another name for it, but that doesn't really matter. So how are we going to use this to support the claim that economic growth occurred due to consumerism? What does the GI Bill have to do with consumerism? Well, it gave a lot of benefits to servicemen or men in the war. And some of the benefits included an allowance. Servicemen received a monthly allowance which contributed to the increased consumerism by as many of these men would start families. That is a fact. There was a baby boom in that time. They would start and I could use that as another outside evidence, but let's just not get ahead of ourselves. See, this is minimum to the maximum. Let's see if we have time to add that. Let's see. Okay. GI Bill, servicemen received a monthly allowance, which contributed to increased consumerism, as many of these men would start families and desire typical household appliances. And we can say Doc 1. And guess what? We don't even that we already connected it to thesis too in that sentence. All right. But we don't want to go off topic. We can say the baby boom potentially, but let's not do that for now. Now we were going to source this in the Roosevelt. So let's see, how do we want to say this? It's a little bit cheesy to just say the point of view of Roosevelt. Let's try to think of something else. That's better to do for purpose or audience, but for historical situations or point of view, those are the 4 sourcing things, by the way. For those 2, you don't really want to say that. All right, let's see. Roosevelt kept the bonus army. This is actually also outside evidence. Okay. Sorry, I knocked the headphone out of my ear. Okay. Roosevelt kept the bonus army incident in the 1930s in mind to prevent economic and social complications following a war for these servicemen. Okay, and that connects to our thesis because it's showing he made this to promote economic prosperity. Okay, and now we sourced 2 documents and we used 3. So let me do a check by this document. All right, what was it? Number 1. All right, check by the document. And now we got this point. So now we have 4 out of 7, all right? But let's say I want to keep writing. Well, let's get some more points, all right? Oh, okay, fine. All right. See, this is kind of like exhausting a little bit, and I don't know how long I've been taking, but you do really have to go faster than what I'm doing. Obviously, I'm explaining. But let's go on to the next document we were going to use, which was 3. How can we use this? And we weren't going to source this one. So let's just kind of make sure that we connect it to the thesis, but we don't need to go into too much detail for time's sake. Okay. So remember, okay, this is why it's good to underline things, because if you might forget by this point, what was this thing even talking about? Oh, remember, it's talking about all of the new appliances. McCall's magazine depicts this predicted, not predicted, I don't think that's the way to say it, depicts this increased consumerism as the release describes typical, or I should say common, because I already used typical, common household items continually bought and everyday, or I'll just say American homes, family homes. Okay, and so that's document 3. And is the release as the release, okay. And I did describe an increase in consumerism. Increased consumerism leading economic prosperity. Economic prosperity. All right, now I've used 4 documents, but that doesn't get me any new points yet. Okay, now we're talking about this one, all right? Okay. Similarly, remember, that's a good word to use. The 1950 automobile advertisement displays a common I'm trying to think what to say. Displays the concept of conform consumption, which is promoted through the message of the advertisement. So I don't feel like that connects it to the thesis. So I'll say furthermore, and I did say the purpose, but I feel like that was too vague to consider that sourcing. So furthermore, the purpose was to promote the product in order to achieve economic prosperity was evident to be a possibility. So I'm saying that the creators of this advertisement recognized the economic prosperity resulting from consumerism and therefore made this advertisement to promote their product. And achieve profits increased profits, hence economic prosperity. And this is sourcing, okay? This is sourcing, and now we have sourced 3 documents. We have used 5. Okay, now that we have sourced 3 documents, we get point number 5. So now we have 5 out of 7. That's pretty good. Really, anything above 4 out of 7 is decent on the DBQ. Decent. 5, 6, 7 are the best, though. That's what you want to aim for. 5, 6, 7. Okay. And as you can see, well, it didn't take much. But the reason why you need to do the bare minimum for the maximum, what we have written right now is not the bare minimum for the maximum, because we need to pretend like, okay, well, what if they just happen to not like my sourcing for one of them? That's why we're going to source 4. So that you need to like give yourself like a pillow to land on in case you fall out of the plane. I mean, I don't know if that's a good analogy, but whatever. All right, so now we need to use this one. All right, what was this saying again? Oh, he was describing the concept of suburbia. And they are all in the same boat, okay? So organization man. Now this one was, remember, it kind of confused me, but as far as I can tell, it's talking about, I believe, conformity. But this is why we use 7 documents, because what if I'm wrong? I say I think, that doesn't mean I know. So, but we're gonna put that and let's see if we can get it. It's at least nice of them that they don't make you use 7, but we use 7 so that we can get it. White in the organization man describes a common culture in the newly established suburbia. It is okay, so I'm going to quote that word, and this is different from quoting like a whole lot of the document. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not quoting a whole sentence. I'm just saying that to like rephrase what he said, or not rephrase, like restate what he said. So I said the message, but now I need to explain, how does this connect to my thesis? This this depicted suburbia. And I know you can't italicize on paper, so you would be able to do this, but this depicted suburbia is a product of economic prosperity, which allowed for many of these families to navigate to their homes in the suburbs. So I'm saying this suburbia is a result of economic prosperity. So therefore, there was economic prosperity. I almost want to say historical context, because see, 1956, that was when the Eisenhower thing was, but I already have said enough. I've already sourced, I'm going to source this thing. Or actually, I'm going to change that. I'm going to source this one to be my 4th source instead. I think that's better fit, but I'm going to say what I was going to say anyways, but all right. And in context, the publishment, I don't know, the release, the article, I don't know what it is, but I'll just say the release was released. Oh, great. So let me just say the article or the excerpt was released in 1956, which was when the Federal Highway Act of 1956 was passed, giving way to suburbanization. Yes. Yes. So they don't like some of the other historical thinking skills, sourcing. They don't like that. I got me another one. And guess what? This cannot be the outside fact once again, because this pretty much displays this. But it can be the historical context, right? All right, now we have used 6 documents. Yes, we have. So now we have 6 points. But we're going to add this last document just in case we got one of them wrong. The map of the interstate highway system from 1958 depicts this, and this flows well, depicts this process, which led to the ability for led to economic prosperity, and I need to say why, so I'll connect it to the thesis. Because it allowed, no, I'll just do this, and then I'll say the interstate highway system was effective in allowing for economic prosperity because it contributed to mobility of middle-class Americans, leading to further consumerism by families, and thereafter economic prosperity. So I'm connecting all of it. Prosperity. Prosperity. I don't want to say it. All right. Now I don't get any new points because I still got, the only point that I haven't gotten necessarily is complexity. I'm going to put a question mark by it because I said 2% of people get it. It is probably unlikely. I'm not some essay expert. It's probably unlikely that I would get a complexity point. I feel like that you have to be, it's okay if you don't get this. Really, it is. Because you can definitely still get a 5 without getting this point. So now I could just end the essay, but I think that it would be nicer if I could potentially get the complexity point if I said just a little bit more. And now I'm going to kind of restate the thesis. Nevertheless, regardless of any contradictions to the claim, I should say insignificant, because when compared to the majority, there was economic prosperity. Economic prosperity, I can't spell that word, can I? Did thrive in the 1940s to 1970s as a direct result of consumerism. And here's where I can maybe get the complexity point. Similar to the economic prosperity of the 1920s, in which the aforementioned process led to consumerism. The 1940s to 1970s did just that. And sort of the last sentence kind of needs to wrap it up, right? Let me just say one more sentence. When examining the big picture of American culture, this in this era, this significant process can become evident. So it's sort of like the last thing, sort of like a, well, you know, I'm right kind of thing. Like, you know, so you kind of want to sound confident in what you're saying in this essay. So this is our essay. It is done. I am not sure how long it took me, but if you were doing this, you would need to get this done in 60 minutes. And really the writing should have taken 45 minutes. And I do believe that I took longer than that. I'm not sure how much longer, but if I did not explain, I am pretty confident that I could have gotten that done in 45 minutes. So let's look at something real quick. Okay, here I have the Albert EO, I don't know if that's how you say it, score calculator. All right. Below are the average scores for things. All right. If you did what I just did, all right, let's bring this up to 6. You would get a 3 if you did the other things. But the process is similar to LEQ. Let's say you got 5. All right, now you have a 4. And if you really make sure that you're explaining and using facts, there's not a reason why you shouldn't have it about that on there. For the multiple choice, if you study everything and you make sure that you can eliminate 2 answers and decipher between one and the other, you should be able to get higher. And look at that. So see your potential for the DBQ. The DBQ is a very big part of your score, and you need to make sure that you do well on it, okay? So this being said, thank you for watching this video, and I hope it helped you know how to write the APUSH History DBQ as I thoroughly went through how to write one. Thank you for watching.